Hello, my name is Puriya Bigband, Product Manager at AUCOTEC. In this movie, I'm going to show you how we can start from designing a P&ID and end up by allocating the IOs to the controllers in just 10 minutes. So, I'm going to realize this infrastructure. From the left side, we have the P&ID with 3 tanks and 3 field instruments. Then we have the junction box and all the wires in between. We have the marshalling, we have the IOs, and then we have the PLC controller. I'm going to design the P&ID, I'm going to define the control infrastructure, I'm going to do the wiring of the field instrument, I'm going to design the junction box, design of the marshalling, loops, IO allocation, and finally reports like list of devices, instrument index, bill of material, wiring and cabling list, and IO allocation will be generated. And all this will be designed only in 10 minutes. So to start from the scratch, I have a project with the field area which is completely empty, a plant, and a P&ID with one sheet which is already opened and is empty. For designing the P&ID, I will go to my assembly modules library, and then I will select some of the modules that I need and drag and drop them on the P&ID. You can see that by drag and drop of the items, all the devices are numbered automatically. So now that I have all my modules, I can connect them. And my P&ID design is finished. So I can come back to my project, and now you can see that all the devices are in my field area 100. And for the next step, I want to get a list of the sensors that I have on my P&ID. So I can open a worksheet of my instruments level control sensors. And these are the sensors that I have on my P&ID. So I will select all of them and I will assign a tag for them. For assignment of the tag, I will create a new subplant. For example, water supply 001. And now they all have their own tags. So now that I have the tags and I have the sensors, I have to build the infrastructure for control and instrumentation of my plant. For that reason, I will use Typical Manager to give me a typical infrastructure that I can use in my project. So I can select my sub-function. I can go to the infrastructures in my typical project. I can use the typical with the junction box and marshalling cabinet, and I can use Siemens or ABB or any other controller that I have with options and variants that I have to be my controller. I will select the typical unit 1 to be my field area. So the cables which are connected to the junction box will be copied to the field area. And now you can see that I have the controller, the cabinet, mounting plate, and all the controllers with their terminals. I have the junction box with 2 junction blocks and the cables connecting to the junction box and then connecting to the field area. And the marshalling connecting with marshalling cabinet 1 and marshalling cabinet 2 with 2 cables connecting junction box to the marshalling. So now that I have the infrastructure and I have the sensors, The next step is that I have to connect my sensors to the wires that are coming from the junction box. For that reason, I can go to my cable inside the field area. You can see that there is a new cable in my field area. I can use wiring manager, and wiring manager is telling me that this cable from the right side is connected to the junction box 1 and from the left side is empty. So I can add the sensors that I have added, and I can connect them to my wires 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6. Now that I have connected my sensors to the wires that are connected to the junction box, the next step is to design the loops. For that, I will select my tag numbers and then select a typical loop from my typical project. I can select the 2 wires with a digital input. Also for the second one. And I can copy. So now you can see that 3 loops are created, and when I open each of these loops, you can see that the sensor is merged. Wires are numbered 1, 2. Junction box terminals are numbered 1, 2. Wire and cable between the junction box and marshalling cabinet, the wires are there. Each wire can be opened and you can see the destinations are there. And the terminals and the floating I/O have been created. So if I open the second one, this is the second sensor. You see that here junction box terminal 3 and 4, wire 3 and 4, and then marshalling cabinet 3 and 4 are assigned. So you can see that all the wiring between the sensor up to the I/O is done completely automatically in Engineering Base. 5 and 6, 5 and 6. So now that I completed the wiring between the field device to the junction box and marshalling and to the I/O, the next step is to assign this I/O, which is floating somehow, to a controller. For that reason, I will close my P&ID, and then I will open a loop diagram, and also I will open the controller which I copied before with the infrastructure. I can put them both in parallel. So left side is my I/O and the right side is my controller, and my target is to assign this I/O to this controller. For that reason, I will use my merge I/O wizard, and I will ask the wizard to give me all the floating I/Os from the left and give me all the controllers on the right. From the left, you can see that I can select an I/O, and from the right, I selected already -1A4, which is this controller, and I will select the first terminal to be used for this I/O. If I put it a little bit to the side, you can see that this is assigned and the controller is assigned. So for the next one, I will select the next twos and merge them both together. Now my 3 loops are assigned to the controller. So you can see that from the scratch P&ID, I designed and completed the complete wiring to the controller and assignment to the controller. And by the way, all the reports that I needed, and I created some templates for them, are generated completely automatically. For example, the sensors list, wires list, bill of material, cable list, or I/O allocation list. Thank you very much.